Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I am your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Before we get started, I would love it if you would click on subscribe before you start listening. And here we go. We're going to talk about an injury update for Duren and Bojan, and the bizarre one with Monte Morris. And we're going to talk about Monty Williams and some of his questionable lineups. We're going to talk about the worst 15-game start in Piston history, which is this year. And we're going to talk about Pistons going forward and lineups going forward. So let's go ahead and start out with the injury report. Duren is good to return to practice, and so that's a great sign. It's a little bit different than Bogey's the information they gave about him, but he's been playing 3-on-3. So I heard that, a few days ago, that he has been playing 3-on-3. So they gradually amp guys up from playing 3-on-3 half court, and then pretty soon they'll play 5-on-5. But they always have them play 5-on-5 at least one day or more practice before they actually play. So there's a chance, I'm sure, that Duren is ready to play Friday. I mean, that's just my best guess, and it will remain to be seen whether they hold him out until Monday when we play the Wizards. So my guess is he'll play in one of those two games for sure. Bogey, on the other hand, has been cleared to return to practice. He has got that right calf that's been there all year. Was it there before the season started? Was it there when he was at home in Europe? Was it, from last year? No, we have no idea. Nobody's ever clarified that. So, but he's been cleared for full basketball contact. So that means he can go out and play one-on-one, or like I said, a lot of times they play 3-on-3 as guys start to gradually ramp up. And they said he's going to return to play progression. So that's, again, the progression is, I don't know exactly all the steps, but it's 3-on-3 and then 5-on-5, and then they do more and more and they gradually ramp up. And he's going to be able to practice with the team in the upcoming days, it says. So does that mean he might practice tomorrow? He might practice the next day? Who knows? But the bizarre one, though, is Monte Morris. And so he just underwent a PRP injection, which is platelet-rich plasma injections. And that's where they take the patient's own blood and they mix it all up, and then they inject it to accelerate healing of the specific area where the injury is. And it started to be something that they're doing with athletes. It's a real popular thing that they've been doing. So I'm guessing it's effective, but we'll see. But the big thing is, as soon as they put out the injury report for Monte Morris, he did something. I don't know this stuff. They said he did a tweet that had a cap emoji or something on it, which means that it's a lie. So again, I'm not sure about that. That's just what I've heard. I'm not one of these people, I'm big on social media, and then he took it off. So it sounds like he was upset, and they thought whatever that was reported, I don't know what part he thought wasn't true or was true, but it's just fascinating. But the bottom line is, they're saying that he's not going to be ready for 6 to 8 weeks. That's to be reevaluated. And again, you never can get reevaluated. Means that after the reevaluation, if they determine that he's okay, then all of a sudden they do the gradual progression, just like they're going to do with Bojan right now. So Bojan might not play for 2 or 3 weeks, or 2 weeks or something. I would guess it'd be 10 days or, I'm not exactly sure. We just have to see what they say. But so 6 weeks takes us to January 2nd, and 8 weeks takes us to January 16th. And so the trade deadline is February 8th. So he's on, we have him under contract just for this year. He has an expiring contract. I was hoping that he would get to play with us, and we would get to determine whether he sounded like a perfect backup point guard for our team. And then we thought maybe we would re-sign him, and he's only like 28 years old. So he's not, like Burks is like 32 and Bojan's 34, going to turn 35 in the spring. So those are different situations. He's 28, so he could be, helpful for a bunch of years. So we could extend him, but now I don't know what will happen. And also, he would be a real valuable trade asset, I think, because playoff teams need backup point guards, and especially if they have somebody injured, if one of the teams does. And Utah, for example, doesn't have any guards. They got the worst, by all accounts, have the worst group of guards in the NBA, and so it seems to me he would be a perfect fit there. I'd love to see them trade him and get Taylor Hendricks. They got Taylor Hendricks playing in the G League right now, and he's that 6'9", 6'10" guy that came in the draft, but they have so many forwards. They have Lauri Markkanen, and then they traded for John Collins, and they have some other guys, and so there's just not playing time for him. And if they wanted to go right now and be a better team, they might trade for him. And we could also trade him, Killian, if they were interested in the guard, or one of our other guards. I don't know what exactly their plan is. I think that the Jazz, I think that if they finish better than 10th place, then they have to give up this year's draft pick. I think that's the situation. But anyway, it'll be fascinating to see what happens. But here's a big topic that I really want to get into is all these people freaking out on podcasts. And, I hear this one podcaster on Locked On Pistons. He the last 3 episodes, I listen to him every time. I listen for information I can use on my podcast. I'm dying for information on the Pistons. I love whatever I can get on the Pistons, so I always listen to it. He has some good thoughts and some entertaining podcasts sometimes, but right now he's just completely freaked out. So he basically gets on every episode and screams, "I have nothing to say. I have no answers. I have nothing left. I have nothing to say and so he screams that for 3 episodes in a row. But Mike Valente, that works for 97, won the ticket. He doesn't even watch the Pistons most of the time, but he's a person that likes to stir up fire and complain and yell and rant. And so he had a huge rant about the Pistons and how terrible they are, and everybody needs to be fired, and how worthless everybody is. And so, it is a concerning. I'm not here to say I'm really disappointed in our team. I thought we would be better. I guess I'm wrong. But my big thing is, everybody, they're tired of excuses. We have these injuries, but let's talk about the last straw for everybody, because we never should have lost to the Nuggets, because they had their 2 best players injured. And even though we had players injured, we had 3 of our best players injured, and probably our second and third best players arguably injured. Plus, we haven't even utilized Jaden Ivey, who's one of our top 4 players, the way that we should. Because, hopefully it changes. I think hopefully it changes with Monty starts to let him do what he can do, and that'll make a big difference. But anyway, let's think about this logically. The Denver Nuggets were world champs. So they lost their second best player, Jamal Murray, for the game. He didn't play. Jokic played all but 1:22 of the first half. So and I thought when he got ejected, I thought, oh man, this is our chance. We're going to win. So I'm not saying that it's not completely unfounded, but I'm just saying that it shouldn't be a lock that the team that was world champs missing their top 2 players, and all these other teams, everybody's saying that about everybody we've been playing. Well, we never should have lost any of these games because they all had injuries. Giannis got kicked out partway, 9 minutes left in the third quarter. So we should have won that game for sure. But the Bucks are projected to be one of the best teams in the league, and the Nuggets were the best team, and we were the worst team in the league last year, and we are missing, again, arguably our second, Duren and Bogdanovich, that are our second and third best players, I would say. And so why does that mean it should be an easy win when they had a world championship team and we had the worst team, and we're missing 2 of our top 3 players, and they're missing their top 2 players, and even one of them played half the game, and it was a 1-point game when he got ejected. So it wasn't like they were just killing us with him. So anyway, I just find it ironic that people all think that about all these teams. And Monte Morris, I was convinced he would be really integral in our team and really give us that stabilizing 38% on threes, doesn't never turn the ball over. And for a team that does turn the ball over, it would make a big difference. We've lost all these games at the end. We've had, for sure the Portland game and the Milwaukee game and the Denver game. All those games, we self-destructed at the end. And part of it, Cade tried to do maybe too much, and he wasn't successful. He tried his best, and nobody else we had could score. And so we just didn't score. Put Bojan in there. That guy's a bucket, man. He can score, and he is one of the most consistent shooters in the NBA. So I'm not saying I'm not for making excuses, but it's legitimate. And when again, like I said, the big thing is all these teams, they they were better teams than us. So when they lose their players, shouldn't be as big an impact. And Valenti, everybody's saying this Pistons team is worse, and the Tigers and Lions are better. Well, the Lions are doing great. But, people would have freaked out. People overreact. And it's 12 games, the worst start in Piston history, a bad thing. It certainly is. But, people flip out on things. If we get everybody back, see how everything goes, we can evaluate after that happens. And obviously somebody else might get injured. And so, but I would just want to see I would love to see our team play with Bogdanovich and Duren and Cade and Ivey and Asar. I would love to see those guys get to play and see how they do. But I've been a Detroit fan my whole life. The Lions won their last championship, 1957. I was 2 years old. They've won one playoff game since 1962. Pistons have won, 3 championships since then, and had some Eastern Conference Finals teams. So the Lions from 2019 to 2021, they were 11 and 36, and in 2006 to 2009 they were 12 and 52. So those were awful. We had an 0 and 16 team. The Tigers have been terrible lately. They haven't won a playoff game in a long time, a playoff series in a long time, and they have lost lots of games. They have had lots of games where we had a streak between 2017 and 2019 where we lost 98, 98, and 114 games in 3 consecutive years. And so, anyway, it's not been fun, but I just think that still the Pistons have some young talent. It remains to be seen. Maybe it's not as good as I thought it was, and but part of it, not only are we lacking in talent, but there's just been some questionable decisions by Monty Williams, in my opinion, and no greater one than our last game with the Denver Nuggets. And we go to the end of that game with, I mentioned it after that game, with Isaiah Livers, who hasn't played in forever. He has never played great. He could be great. So the thing about Isaiah Livers is he's a wonderful player in theory. I mentioned this last podcast. He defends hard. He's a good defender. He's not a great athlete. He's a good athlete, a little more athleticism than I thought he had, but he can't jump that high. He's only like 6'7", and he's not a great rebounder. He's supposed to be a great three-point shooter, and he's played 72 games in 3 seasons for the Pistons. 72 games, and he's been injured most of the time. He really hasn't got a fair chance to really get in the groove, but he, 37% shooter, which is good, really good, but he's just not, he's good, not great. But he's his first game back. He was on limited minutes restrictions, and then he comes out there, he makes his first shot in the first quarter, and then he goes 0 for 6. He misses all the shots, and we can't score the last 9 minutes. We make one bucket, and Monty plays him at the end. And not only that, is just like I've said, when we got killed by the Raptors, we can't be out there with Livers and Stu or Knox and Stu. Stu's 6'8" and can't jump, and Knox and Livers are 6'7", and they're not big rebounders. So if you want to play Livers and Knox at power forward at the 4, you can, but not with Stu. You got to play him with like Bagley or Duren, so that we have at least one big guy out there. So, like I said, Livers, he communicates on defense. He makes the right rotations. Those things are all valuable. He moves the ball really fast on offense. So theoretically, Livers is a good player. So, but I think Monty, it appears, and again, it's just been a little sample size that we have here. He got all excited. We get Knox off the streets. Nobody wants him. Coming to the season, not one team in the NBA wanted him. We'd pick him up. He has a good game. He got 10 rebounds one game, but then after that, he got 4 and 3 and 2. But I guess we thought because he got that 10 rebound game that we could play him at power forward. He had one game where he shot the lights out. I mean, it was like, I don't know if he was 6 for 7 on threes, but he hasn't done that since then. And anyway, Monty plays him and Monty starts him. And we got all these guys that he's been coaching up, and none of them are good enough to play. But yet this guy that we pick up off the streets is good enough. And Livers hasn't played since all year, and it's like a new toy for the coach, and he gets all excited. And a lot of people are that way. They get excited about the new thing, and we all get excited about the new rookie and the new, it's human nature. But a coach has to have, I think when you see, especially, so we're playing the last 9 minutes, we make one bucket. Cade made one drive, and then we don't think to put Bagley in. Bagley is 7th in the NBA in shooting percentage, and this game he was scoring and getting fouled, and then with Jokic out of the lineup, he could dominate in there. They had no big guys. Big guys can't even bother. Bagley can score on anybody. And so we can't score. We got a big guy. And then Monty says we couldn't get a rebound. We couldn't really rebound, but here we are with Stu, 6'8", that can't jump, and Livers, who's not a great leaper and not that great of a rebounder, and those are 4 and 5. So that's very questionable. And again, I'm proud of Monty. He played Ivey, and we got to see the magic that Ivey can do in the first half of that game. I still don't understand why, coaches have plays. NBA, they don't run a lot of plays. They do a lot of things in transition, and they have a lot of movement, and they just do a lot of pick and roll. But when you're struggling to score, that's when it's good. When I coached, I had a lot of set plays, and certainly was an asset to run a quick hitter to the player that I think needed to get the ball. And Ivey took 2 shots in the second half. He made one, and then the other one he got fouled on, so it didn't count for a shot even. And he made 2 free throws. So, but he didn't touch the ball hardly. And is that partway on Cade, but still it's on somebody. And if you're the coach, you call a timeout or you call a play that's designed to go to Jaden Ivey and let him, try to cook a little bit. So last year he was not good finishing around the rim. He drove to the basket a lot. We had no spacing. He was, going, maybe being sped up a little bit too fast, a little bit out of control. And he only shot 55% at the rim. And he can get to the rim because he's so fast, but that's like in the 19th percentile. But this year, for the whole season, 81% at the rim, and that's 96th percentile in the NBA of all the players. Jaden Ivey, and we needed to have him touch the ball at the end of that game. So, coaches, I ran a lot of stuff for my players, but a lot of times, when you run plays, a lot of teams take things away, but when teams take one thing away from your play, where it's designed, it opens something else up. And one of the things, we have Asar, who I love. He's taken the second most shots on our team, and he's not a good shooter. And so you have to question yourself about that, and Ivey's like 7th on our team in shots taken, and you have to question that because he can score. So it's all, like I said, everybody gets worked up. I get worked up too, and I'm disappointed too. I was hoping we got off to a good start. We're 2-1. Everything's looking great. Duren's healthy. Even without Bogdanovich, we look like we can do some, harm to the league, and then things just fall apart. Duren gets hurt, and Bogdanovich doesn't come back, and we play questionable lineups. We played that starting lineup with Killian and Asar and Stewart and Duren and Cade, and that was not. We got in the hole every game at the beginning of the game. That lineup shouldn't have been there. We need to have 2 shooters with Cade out there all the time, and we have him on our team, but we just didn't play him. So let's go ahead. I'm going to tell you my starting lineup. So if you listened to the episode before the season started, this was my starting lineup. I have not changed my mind. If everybody's healthy, it's Cade, Ivey, Duren, Bagley, Asar, and that's my starting lineup. So I still think that's, you'd have Ivey and Bogey that can score with Cade, and then you have Asar. As long as he's out there with Duren, we have enough size and enough rebounding, and Asar can guard anybody. But big thing is, everybody, including myself, and again, I'm the biggest, I'm president of the Cade Cunningham fan club, but he is not played up to where we thought, and part of it is because of spacing, but part of it he has to do better. He makes some careless turnovers consistently, like a couple every game that are just like, why did he do that? And you would expect more of him. He hasn't shot consistently. He's back shooting the three again real well. He started out for a bunch of games, but I think it's weighed on him. Teams started just trapping him, and they did at the end of the Denver game. Send two guys out at him 40 feet from the basket, and they get the ball out of his hands. And then what are we going to do? We're going to go to Stu down in the post, or Sar's going to get the ball and get his shot blocked. And so that is a problem. And so I do think that he'll play better if he has more spacing. It was great to see the irony of him getting 11 free throws, and he was 11 for 11 last game, is he's been getting fouled like that all year, and they just didn't call it. And so, I'm not sure that they're going to just all of a sudden start calling it. Hopefully they call at least part of them. But so we need Cade. We need Cade to be really great, not just really good. And do we expect him to be great every game? No, but the difference between being good and great is consistency with teams and with players. I've said that my whole life. That means Cade needs to be good, like 7 out of 10 games, he needs to be real good. But the difference is we need to have, where we miss Bojan and Ivey, is when Cade's not in the lineup, those are the two guys that can really score. And if Cade's having an off night, then we don't have anybody. And so that's been a huge problem, and hopefully with Ivey back in the starting lineup and getting to play over 30 minutes a game and Bojan coming back, that will rectify a lot of our problems there. So again, I loved Ivey. We're going to see if Monty, again, I really do think that either like his personality or the way he plays really just does not suit Monty Williams, but he's playing him. So if we can get past this, and we need to, because like it or not, I got a strong feeling we are stuck with Monty Williams for 6 years or 5 years. His contract is for 6 years guaranteed for lots of money, and like I said, Gore's hired him, and he wanted him so bad, and initially got lots of praise for it. And so I think, again, people in power, like coaches and GMs and owners and principals and referees and everybody, they don't people that have some power, they don't want to be told they're wrong, and so I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, I think there's a real chance that Ivey and Cade can play great together. Again, I made the example last podcast about each in the first half. There was a time when one of them drove in and the defense had to, collapse on them, and so they kicked it out to the other one, and they made wide open threes. So we'll hope that can happen. Duren is, he started out like one of the best players in the league, and obviously he still has talent. He's young and he's big and he's strong, and he plays hard. But obviously there's concern about his ankles. There's just something, he's like a little bit bow-legged, I think, and I'm not sure. Sometimes the way our bodies are formed, that can, cause injuries easier. So, Bogey, like I said, he's 34. I would love to know what we've been offered in trades for him. I'm still disappointed that we didn't trade. I wanted him to be traded at the trade deadline last year. I wanted him to be traded at the end of the year, and it's not because I don't think he's good. He is good. He's a player, the type of player that we need. But, we have him under contract again for this year and next year, but he's not getting younger. He's getting older every day, and his trade value is declining every day. So, but now with him and Morris, I can't believe that people are going to trade anything of significance for them. And Monte Morris is not, we got him for a second round pick. That's all we're going to get for him. But the dream for me is to package some guys and maybe get something a little more valuable. But and we'll be excited to see what happens when he comes back. But hopefully he plays great, and then we can trade him or whatever. So Asar is unbelievable, and everybody loves him, but I think still people, and I love him, and I want him to play. I want him to start. I want him to play 30 minutes a game. Well, maybe not down the stretch if we can't score, at least sub him in and out every dead ball, put him in when we're on defense, and then put him, if there's a dead ball and we're going to be on offense, sub him out, even though he's a great offensive rebounder. So I like that about him too. So I think that, but he can't shoot. His shooting's questionable, and it's sad. His brother he's done way better and got more minutes and stuff than Amen, but he's got a hurt ankle, and I'm just hoping. I got tickets to see the Rockets and Pistons play. I think it's January 12th, and the dream is to see the two twins play against each other. So I hope I get to see that. So again, Bagley, people just like to not like him, and just like they like to hate Weissman. And I'm not saying that they're good. I just get to hear the same people say how terrible they are. Weissman can be 6 for 6 and get 10 rebounds in 16 minutes, and they say he's terrible. And that's not the case. And he's done it more than once, and he had decent games last year quite often. And I'm not saying that we should keep him. I'm not saying that we should re-sign him. But he's not the garbage that everybody just regurgitates. Everybody hears certain things. It's just like everybody loves stew, and I love stew too. And everybody loves livers. And so those guys on podcasts and things, they just automatically everybody just says they're great. And everybody says how good all the things that they do good are. And they do a lot of good things. But they're really limited. And some other guys who maybe not as great, Bagley maybe not as good at helping out on defense's livers, but when you need a bucket, and we did against the Nuggets down the stretch, Bagley could have got us a bucket, and Livers couldn't, and Bagley could get us rebounds. Bagley's rebounds per minute played is way up there. So and then our second team going forward will be interesting. Now that we were real confident, Monte Morris was supposed to be ahead of everybody else. That was the rumors. That was the report that we heard, that Monty should be back sooner than later, and before those other guys. And now it looks, it's sad for him. I know he's, from Flint, and he wanted to play, and I'm sure he wants to play. So, but Burks needs to be better coming off the bench, and he's struggled, and so we lose these close games, and he shoots bad, and that really kills us. And I still want Livers to play. I'm not saying don't play Livers, but it is hard when it was his first game back, and they played him 23 minutes, and they played him the last 9 minutes of a close game. So that was my big thing. And when we sub in, I still think it's real important to stagger. But like I said, I think you got to watch what you have out there. You don't want to have, you can go small, but you have to make sure you have whoever in there. So if you want to, like I said, if you want to play Knox or Livers at the 4, then you need to have somebody besides Stu at the 5. So just to finish up, there's some really crazy things happening. Teams score points. Everybody wants, defense. Defenses wins championships. Well, defense is important. But here's today's NBA. Last night, I think it was, the Pacers and Hawks played. They scored combined 139 points. So like 157 to 152. And get this, both teams shot 60% overall, and they shot 61% on threes I'm sorry. Made a mistake. So I'm looking at a different game. The Pacers and Hawks scored 309 points. Both teams shot 60% from the floor and 48% on threes, which is crazy for a whole team to do it for an entire game. But Oklahoma City, I think they're playing the Blazers. They scored 134 points, but they shot a little bit better than 60% overall, 61% on threes, and 100% on free throws. And I don't know if there's ever been a game like that. So people are panicked. They want to trade for Levine. I talked about it already, so I'm not going to go in depth. But you don't trade a bunch of guys, young guys that are your future. All these guys on these other channels that are national reporters, they're all saying, "Oh yeah, the Bulls should trade for Ivey," and that'd be a great deal for the Bulls. But not a great deal for the Pistons, but that would be a great deal for the Bulls. That would be perfect for them to get. But he's 28 years old, not too old, but he has a serious history of knee injury where he's missed seasons. And he's got $40 million on his contract, $40 million a year. I think the last year might even be 47. So I'm not for that. I'm not for trading guys like Siakam and OG Anunoby that have expiring deals at the end of the year to give them a bunch of crap for what are we going to do so we can make the play-in? We're not going to make the play-in. So why would we trade? Wait till the end of the year and re-sign them as free agents. Some of my good listeners that are real smart, Lori Marketing, that would be great to get from the Utah Jazz. He would be so awesome to get, and I would trade for him. I might give up Ivey. I don't know how old Marketing is. I should find that out. But he can shoot the lights out. He can score inside. He is just a great player. But you know what? Danny Ainge has a history of winning every trade. So Danny Ainge, he got unbelievable. He just got one of the biggest heists in history was when he traded Rudy Gobert to Minnesota. He complete heist. Like I said, that'll go down in history as one of the greatest trades. When he was in Boston, he made a lot of great deals where he, ripped people off. But they did the deals. But so I would like him. I'd love Bridges. I can't see the Nets trading him. He would be so good because he's under a great contract for somebody as good as he is. So my thing is, if we could trade one of our guards, like I said earlier, and get somebody that's young, like Taylor Hendricks, that there's not minutes for him right now. I don't know if you've noticed, Jalen Green got even benched. He's, he thought was supposed to take off for the Rockets this year, but he is, I don't know that his coach trusts him down the stretch, so he benched. But just before we end, I'm going to give you the Cam Whitmore update. He's playing in the G League because, again, they don't have minutes on the Rockets. They're not playing a lot of their young guys because they traded and got Dylan Brooks and some other guys that play his position. But he's playing in the G League, averaging over 24 points a game, shooting over 49% from the field, 48% on threes, 6 rebounds and 4 assists a game. That's a pretty good stat line. And again, it's against G League competition, but he has talent. But happy Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for every one of you. I hope you have a wonderful time with your family. And I'm not going to go on. A lot of podcasters like to talk about what's your favorite side. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you what I like to do. I like to take my dressing and my mashed potatoes and gravy and my beans or peas or whatever I can, and my turkey, and I mix it all together and I eat it and I love it. So I hope you enjoy yours and be the reason that someone feels cared for and wanted and listened to, and go Pistons. Yeah, that's the first one you've ever listened to, right? No? It don't matter. I don't expect. Oh, shoot.